Hey, I thought your piece on Ohtani in the immediate aftermath, I thought it was the best piece that I've read on this from a national standpoint because, and this is no knock on anyone else. There are a lot of good pieces, but I like the way you took sort of a global look at this. I may have actually swiped a stat from you without attribution, so I want to confess on live radio. I apologize for that. I usually give attribution. It occurred to me way after the fact, so well, wait a minute. Oh, I did Travis wrong there, so I apologize. But my heart was in the right place. But anyway, just the way you laid it all out. I mean, all the different ways that Ohtani can help make money for the Dodgers. His marketing prowess. Even to the point where even we're talking about him, he could influence like what's a shaky time for the industry in terms of local television. Broadcast rights, and even though, as you pointed out, the Dodgers have this enormously lengthy television contract locally for a lot of money, but still having Ohtani in place maybe gives them a little more security than a lot of other teams that are worrying about this. But you just sort of diced that thing up from all angles, and I thought it was terrific. So now that I've set you up, I wanted you to just kind of revisit this. Do you think this was just kind of a no-brainer for the Dodgers? Do you think there should be some reservations other than the fact that how long will he be able to pitch realistically once he returns to pitching? What is the downside? And give us the big pluses, but also the potential downside.
Yeah, it's a fascinating deal to work through, and we've never seen anything quite like it, and we haven't seen anything like Ohtani the player, and arguably a century since Babe Ruth, his last in this dual role, and even Ruth hadn't. I think even Ruth only had a season like Ohtani's of 500 plate appearances, 130 innings pitched. He only did that once. Ohtani's done it 3 times already. So there's really never been anything like Ohtani. And I think, you hit on the big risk for the club from a performance standpoint, and that's how long can he continue pitching? And I had asked around a little bit to some executives and just how would you model this contract? And the general consensus was something along the lines of, Aaron Judge plus the kind of Brandon Woodruff type deal, where a very talented arm but a lot of uncertainty. What he might get, so you heavily discount the arm. So and then we saw the $700 million contract at first was really jarring, and then we learned how all the deferrals. But the big risk is obviously the pitching health. But I think in many ways it's a low-risk deal, I think, for the Dodgers because of just how it's constructed. The time will work for the club, and we can get into that a little bit more. But also, I think Ohtani is more than a dual role player. He's got this third element where he's the most marketable baseball player in a long, long time with international reach. And I think he might be the only player who has the kind of star power comparable to an NBA star or NFL quarterback, where you could really count on them to sell merchandise, drive attention, drive viewership, and expand revenues in a way that even other star-level players just can't do in baseball because of the nature of the sport, and starting pitchers only pitch once every 5 days. Star position players only bat once every 9 times in the lineup. So I think they have this star player who's got international reach to Japan that they can market, and even if he can't pitch that much going forward, they can likely still count on the bat and that marketability. And they have deferred the contract so long that a lot of it will be the Dodgers are run by very financial savvy people, and they're going to let time and interest pay off a lot of that deal. So it's really, I'm sure as your listeners understand, it's $700 million only in theory to the owners. They're probably looking at it as more like $450 million, and interest will take care of the rest. So it's we can dive into specific aspects, but that's sort of the big picture from the club perspective. I see. I guess the only other thing I would say is, and you mentioned the uncertainty of the TV contract, and yeah, we've seen before they have to share a significant part of that, but $330 million per year from their local TV deal alone. That's the largest in the game by quite a bit. and that's right now that's paying a lot of the bills. But we just saw what happened down under State 5 last year when the Padres deal went up in smoke, and that was a $1.2 billion deal. So I guess that the TV uncertainty, deferring all this money along with deferrals and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman's deal, is there some risk that getting overextended into future years of local TV uncertainty? That's another risk, but I feel like the Dodgers brand is so strong and large that they might not be as sensitive to those risks as some smaller market clubs. And, so that's a really long, rambling answer.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. I love your answers. I don't care how long you take. I'm good. Especially me, coming from me, the guy who asked hopelessly long-winded questions all the time. So anyway,
we're a perfect match.
Yeah. Now all eyes are on Yamamoto, and it seems like all the big sharks are swimming in those waters. And I don't know where he's going to end up, but based on people that you've talked to in the industry, and you have a lot of good contacts in terms of baseball people. How good do you think he really will be in MLB? And he's got a lot of things going for him, starting with his age, 25. But how exciting of a pitcher do you think he is from what you know about him or what you've been told about him?
Yeah, I think he's a very exciting arm. You hear some of these Zach Greinke comps put on him, and we all know how great he was at his peak, in a very long career too. I think, even going way back, he's got some Mike Mussina vibes to him. So he's got impeccable control. He's got a deep arsenal. A lot of these pitches pair well off each other. So will he be a super dominant ace? Some of the projections that try to translate the Japanese league stats over to the major league performance, they suggest maybe a number 2 starter instead of number 1, at least initially. We'll have to see, but he fits at the top of just about any rotation. I think that's the consensus from what I've heard and what the projections have to say. So, that's something worth paying up for. Now, I also think he's in a perfect situation where a lot of the large market teams that maybe had Ohtani as a plan A or another pitching plan fell through. I mean, he's sitting there now with almost every large market team interested in him and bidding for his services. So that's in a pitching-starved marketplace, as it usually is this time each offseason. So he's in an ideal spot to really leverage this opportunity. My only real pause with him is he's just 5'10", and players, we don't see teams generally pay up for that. Trying to look through recent history, what sub 6-foot pitchers have reached 9 figures in guaranteed money in their careers, and it's really, you think about Pedro Martinez, super outlier in talent, Tim Lincecum, Mike Hampton, if you inflated his dollars for what they would be in real terms today would be another example. But there just aren't many guys that stand 5'10" that teams invest in or that have proven durability. So I think that's the only pause with him. He's just not that classic kind of Garrett Cole type build that you see teams pay up for. But he's been a durable pitcher to date, and teams. We've seen the impact these types of arms can make in the postseason if he is a legit top rotation arm. So he's going to get a massive payday and probably pushing over $300 million.
Yeah, looking forward to see. Yeah, looking forward to see where he ends up. Before I'm going to ask you about the Cardinals and even the Kansas City Royals, we're going to have an all Missouri Q&A here in a moment. But I have to ask you with the Dodgers. The Tyler Glasnow, not only the acquisition and what they gave up for him, but also just the extension because, for our fans, he's a hell of a pitcher when he can pitch, but that's the huge question, the risk factor of his viability. What was your takeaway from that? Did you like the move and the signing?
It is a high-risk signing, but I like it, and in part because the Dodgers are one of those teams that can afford to take risks, and it won't cripple them from a payroll standpoint, and they've done such a good job developing players under this leadership regime. If there are injuries, they've generally filled them pretty well, and I think they've made like 10 straight playoff appearances. So that track record speaks for itself. And you look at, I like the strikeout rate minus walk rate statistic for pitchers because I believe that's what most pitchers have the most control over, and you want to miss bats and limit walks. And the only pitchers who have been better than him since 2020 are Jacob deGrom and Spencer Strider by that measure. So it just speaks to how good he is per inning. And, of course, the catch is per inning because he's only exceeded 100 innings twice in the season, and he threw 120 last year, which was a career high. So, yeah, the health track record is really, really spotty. And, maybe the Dodgers maybe he'll have better fortune there. Maybe the Dodgers will do a better job of managing his innings. Maybe they'll have a 6-man rotation. I don't know, but he has the most fastball extension in baseball, meaning he releases the ball closer to home plate than any other pitcher, at least starting pitcher. He's got that elite velocity, elite spin, 2 really strong breaking balls. It's an elite package if he can stay healthy. And the Dodgers really just need him to be healthy in October, and he's certainly not. I know his small postseason resume hasn't been great today, but it's only, I think, nine games started. He's not a guy you want to see facing twice in a postseason series, say. So, yeah, I think it makes sense for the Dodgers, and I think if he was on the open market, he would have exceeded that extension he got, even with the health risks.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Travis Sawchik with us from The Score, baseball analyst. And I want to ask you about the Cardinals. Before I ask you about the 3 starting pitchers that they signed, to get your opinion on that, it seems to me they really need something significant added to their bullpen. And John Mozeliak had been dropping a lot of indications that's exactly where he's going next. That's what he said that. But now he seems to be easing up a little bit. That could be gamesmanship too, so we won't know. We'll know soon enough. But other than the obvious candidates, of course, would the obvious bullpen candidates like the top guys, name guys, would be Hader and Chapman, and there are others. But aside from maybe the very top of the list, so kind of the name brand guys, are there some relievers that really impress you that are available, and that maybe teams would not view them as elite, but they have the potential to be elite? Does that ring a bell? Any relievers on the market sort of fit that profile?
The one name who intrigues me is another Japanese arm, Matsui, who I think has met with the Cardinals.
That's the report, yeah.
There's been reports, yeah. He's intriguing, and I think they've also had some discussions with Hector Neris, who has a really strong track record. So, those names are interesting. And you mentioned some of the top arms on the market. I do think if you're not going to have a super elite rotation, you better have a super elite bullpen if you want to be a factor, not just to reach the postseason, but to advance in it. So, I think they're probably publicly trying to downplay some of these efforts, but they should, if they're not going to be in the market for the top end starting pitching, they need to be in the top end for the best relief pitching available. I think that's a priority for them, assuming they're mostly done with the rotation.
I'm intrigued by Robert Stevenson. I mean, he was okay in Pittsburgh, but man, he went to Tampa Bay, and like a lot of pitchers, it's all of a sudden he comes out of there as a beast, striking out 40%. I don't know if that's sustainable, or was that just kind of a flash? I don't know what that was, but there are some good guys on that list that even when I did a lot of research for this piece I wrote at scoops@dannymac.com, and I wanted to make it comprehensive, but not to the point where I'm writing 20 paragraphs about each guy, but just sort of a sketch of each guy. And I was surprised by what I found. And when you're looking for strikeouts, and you're looking at plus pitches according to Stuff Plus, you're looking, all right, does he have 2 or 3 pitches that are on the plus side? And there's actually more talent out there than I would have assumed. You know, I was expecting to see a lot of run-of-the-mill type guys, but there's some. I think there's some guys that can help. But you're so right, and I hope they're playing possum as far as their interest in relievers, because they definitely need it. What did you think? And I don't think we talked about this, Travis. I can't keep my timing straight the last time you've been on, but even if you already asked you about it, we can go over it again. What do you think Sonny Gray and Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn, if he can cut down his home run rate, what do you think they bring to the Cardinals? How do they make the Cardinals better? And how much of an upgrade was it in your mind?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think on one hand it's really impressive to have locked in that many projected innings this early in the offseason, when a lot of teams are waiting for other players to set the market and might be scrambling later in the offseason. So I'll have to give the Cardinals some credit for signing some relatively reasonable deals and locking in a lot of productive veteran innings. And Sonny Gray is a really great pitcher, and I think he is. I've come on your show many times and just kind of harped on the Cardinals not having enough bat missing arms at the top of the rotation to really do damage in those playoff series, those high leverage situations when you really need them. And I think Gray, maybe not a super dominant number one kind of guy, but certainly one of the better pitchers in baseball, and I think a very strong number two on a good team. So yeah, I thought that was a phenomenal ad. Gibson and Lynn, I feel, are more mid-rotation-ish guys who...
Sure.
But that doesn't... If you are raising... The Cardinals really struggled off the mound last year, so to raise the level from poor to near around league average, that's actually a pretty big deal, assuming you're an above-average position player team and scoring and preventing runs on the offensive defense side of the ball. So, yeah, I think they really raised the bar there and the performance level. I don't know that it's enough to really scare anyone should they be in a postseason series again, when we all know the premium that's placed on the best arms. But yeah, I think it's definitely an improvement. I would still have liked them to gone out, and they're another team that could have gamble on a Glasnow, go find another top end rotation piece. I would still like to see them do that, but I know that's one of the more expensive, whether trade or free agency. I know that's an expensive marketplace to play in. But I've just thought the last few years that's just been so obvious, a missing piece to really help this team get where it wants to be.
Travis Sawchik, one more for you, because I think we're all intrigued by the Royals and their relatively new owner, John Sherman. Opening the vault a bit. They signed Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha, formerly of San Diego. They signed both those guys to free agent contracts to be in their rotation. Then they go the Texas route and they get two relievers, free agent reliever, and Chris Stratton and Will Smith. And they also sign Hunter Renfroe, who's got some power, been around, been for a few teams, but generally respected. They give him a 2-year deal, so they've spent some money on just those guys. And then there were a couple of ancillary moves that aren't as to that magnitude. But what do you think of just the approach? And do you think they sense there's an opportunity to maybe steal the AL Central? And do you like these guys? Do you think they will help them quite a bit, or maybe not so much? Wherever you come down on that, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I do think they sense opportunity in the Central. You look at the division the last 3 years, in each of those seasons, there's been only one team to finish with a winning record in the division. And so it's, the Twins won it with 87 wins last year. It's such a low bar. And speaking of teams that need to improve their rotation, the Royals just had a dreadful one entering the offseason. So they had to address that to be competitive, and I do like Lugo, and I think they've gone from dreadful to nearer to at least being less poor off the mound with that overall effort, and that could be a really, really big deal, especially when you have the Twins and the Guardians talking about shedding payroll with their local TV uncertainty. So I do think they sense opportunity there, and that even the Twins might not be as good as they were last year. We'll see what their overall offseason looks like, but they sense opportunity. And Sherman, I think, is a pretty big baseball fan, and I don't think he wants to. He wants to compete to some degree, given the market constraints. So. I think I don't Renfroe on the position player side. I don't know that I quite understand that one as much, but they have some legitimate young stars on the position player side to build around, and I do think the Tigers too, to some extent. I do think you're seeing the Royals and Tigers looking at the Guardians and Twins, who have traditionally run above them in recent years, not seen them do much, and being like, "Hey, this division's there for the taking," and adding marginal wins could be a big deal in the AL Central, where you don't need 100 wins to capture a playoff spot there.
My friend Travis Sawchik, thank you as always for the visit, and again, happy holidays to you and loved ones, and we'll talk again once we get into the new year, but we'll continue to read you and everyone there at thescore.com. I like all the sports coverage. I think NFL and college football writers do an excellent job as well. So, but thanks for all you do, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy holidays, Bernie, and anytime. Great, always great to be with you.
Thank you, sir. That's the gentlemanly Travis Sawchik. We like him a lot. He's really, really smart. By the way, a couple things. It's interesting because I was looking at the Fangraphs projections because I'm always just curious what projections tell us, and I know we got to get to a break here, and I'm going to do that. What I got to say doesn't take too long here. If you take Gray and Lynn and Gibson, their combined projection for next season is 7.5 wins above replacement. That's pretty good. Because there was a higher projected WAR. I'll just call it WAR, wins above replacement. There was a higher projected WAR for Gray, as you would expect, more than the other two. But what I was surprised is that the other two, the projections were maybe more than I thought they'd be. And they're only projections. But again, it's a curiosity, nothing more at this point. But when you look at it this way, last season, Cardinals starting pitchers were like 20th, I think, in the majors with 9.6 wins above replacement. So the point being that I'm not going to say they've matched that, what they had from everyone last year, they've matched it, but it's not that far away. They're about two wins over replacement, shy of where they were last year, the whole season, all the starters they had. So that is there are people that just want to deny it, but it's more than just kind of it's a nice little upgrade. It's more than a little upgrade. As I said earlier in the show, it's not ideal, but let's not underestimate the nature of the upgrade, because it most definitely is an upgrade. If you go from the toilet to where you're at least middle of the pack, that's obviously a pretty big step in the right direction. But their work isn't finished either. That's why I'm frustrated they haven't added yet another starter. But the three that they added, are going to be able to really help them next season. So there's that. The other thing is, anytime I talk about quality starts, it's predictable. Online, anywhere you want, my personal correspondence that I receive, this and that. It's like, I hear these guys. I hear Bernie running his mouth about the quality start, telling me how many quality starts Kyle Gibson's had more than Nola and all. It's just like, what? It's a garbage stat. It's junk. It's just one of these made-up things. All these idiots want to sell. These nerds want to sell us on this stat. And as I'm saying that, and I don't take offense, some of our listening audience are nodding and saying, yeah, it is. It is a junk start, a junk stat. All right, if it's a junk stat, can I ask you a question? May I ask a question to the audience?
Sure.
Over the last 5 seasons, not one season, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 seasons since 2019, when the Cardinals get a quality start, do you know what their winning percentage is in those games? Well, of course I have the answer. You know what their winning percentage is?
What's that?
715.
That's incredible.
But it's a junk. It's a total junk stat made up by nerds. Nobody pays attention to that. It's garbage. Well, then why is the team's winning percentage? Why do they win 71.5% of their games when they get one? If it's such a junk, meaningless stat, I'm just curious. I'd like to hear an answer, one that is coherent and on point. For the people that just absolutely, well, it's really, the thing of it is, what's so special about 6 innings and 3 earned runs? And that's a 4.50 ERA. You get a quality start. What's so special? What's interesting about that? Last year when the Cardinals got a quality start, they got 48 of them, right? Mm-hmm. In 10 of the quality starts, the starter gave up no runs. And then there were quite a few. I have this in front of me, and I know I got to take a break, so bear with me here. They also were able to do well in quality starts where they only gave up 1 run or 2 runs. There was a lot of them. 16. Let me correct myself. In 26 of their 48 quality starts last year, the starter in question gave up 1 run or none 26 times. And then 9 other times they gave up 2 runs in a quality start. You say, well, that's still a lot of three-run starts, Bernie. Well, no, because, see, you're making the mistake of assuming that the 13 quality starts where they allowed 3 runs. You can't allow more than 3. They were all 6 innings and 3 earned runs. Some of them there were a couple 3 7-inning starts where they allowed 3 runs. And I think there might have been an 8-inning start where that happened. So the point is, it's what all these dummies out there, not our audience, of course, all these dummies out there just won't take into account. It doesn't mean that every quality start is 6 innings, 3 earned runs allowed. I mean, the quality start ERA for a course of a season is near 2. I'll shut up now. But it's just amazing to me that, it's a meaningless stat. Well, why the hell do teams win at a rate of like between 71, 75% of their games when they get one if it's so damn meaningless?